Steve, let's get into some of the specifics. A lot of people saying that might have been Theo Walcott's best game in a Saints shirt since his return. He seemed really up for that yesterday, and he's the surprise hero in this little run of form under Sellés.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately he's a guy who's stuck his hand up and put in the performances. I mean, we mentioned it a couple of weeks back, particularly Grimsby game, where he came on with half hour, 35 minutes to go, and just showed up everybody else on that pitch with just the most. I mean, kind of didn't actually seem as if it was anything out of the ordinary. It was just some basic movement that was suddenly then causing Grimsby a whole load of problems. And I mean, we've seen what Brighton did to Grimsby this afternoon. And actually Grimsby's performance was no different to what they put in at St Mary's a couple of weeks ago. It was just that Brighton got the early breakthrough, and they didn't. Their keeper tried to shoot themselves in the foot, but they got away with it on VAR. But then, second half they just foot to the throat and got it done. But yeah, in terms of individuals, Walcott, as I say, is experienced pro. Clearly has a lot of personal and professional pride, and ultimately there's a few players in that squad who maybe should be taking a little bit of a look in the mirror and sort of glancing over to Theo and saying, well, I mean, this guy's just turned 34 years old and has worked his way back into the team, and he's ultimately, let's be honest, he's one of the first names on the team sheet now.
Yeah.
And deservedly so. And as I say, there's players in that dressing room who should frankly be embarrassed that they've got in, that their performances have been so bad that they've let somebody like Walcott, who, let's be honest, we all expected him to be completely winding down this season after not showing a great deal last season, and yet he showed them all up, and absolute credit to him.
It's his movement. He's against Brentford. I know we're going to talk about that later, but there was no movement in front of the midfield, just none, and he'd been left out of that game. And the inclusion of Walcott and Stuart Armstrong to a lesser degree gives you two players with slightly more intelligence who are happy to, try and dart away from their marker. Stuart Armstrong will make runs sort of diagonally across the pitch, and he'll turn up in the central areas, and that means defenders have got to pass him on or communicate to try and get things sorted. But Theo Walcott is always on the move. He's never just static, being marked by someone. And we have too many players who just stand there. You stand there behind. In between. There's an opposition player in between the ball and where they are. And that's the key to making your attack and play work. And it's been so obvious this season that that's been a problem, and it annoys the hell out of me, because surely it's a coachable thing. And it is something that bothers me. And as Steve said, when a 34-year-old striker who's done everything, let's face it, he doesn't have to be bothered. He's had a brilliant career, whatever he does from here on in. Maybe he's angling for another contract, and it's the classic case of his contract winding down, and he's now really putting it in. But he just makes a difference, and it comes to something when you have to rely on a 34-year-old who most people would regard as a has-been to come in and make the difference that he does.
Well, we've spoken to Theo twice after recent games. He's implicitly aware of that role. I think he really believes that the young players probably do need to step up a little bit, and he thinks that he is the one who can guide them and show them, what they need to do. And I think it shows for sure.
And he speaks really well, Alfie, doesn't he? When he does the interviews, he's not just trotting out all the cliches. He clearly wants to do everything he possibly can to keep the club in the league, and we're going to need players like that.
He does speak so well. I think when I see people say, hopefully Theo stays in a coaching capacity or some kind of academy role, he's going to get paid a lot more money to do media gigs somewhere else, because he is such a good speaker. He's clearly quite intelligent. He's got a lot of passion about the game, and a publication will pay a lot of money to take him on, a lot more than somebody probably would to coach 18-year-olds, unfortunately.